Yo, what is up guys? It is MtgGalaxy here with week 1, day 4 of the Commander 2018 spoilers. To start off this spoiler day, we're going to start with some sweet artifact reprints, and actually pretty much the ones that you'd expect to be in, plus another one. First we have Terminus, and for the rest of the artifacts we have Soul Ring, obviously, Swiftfoot Boots, I prefer a Lightning Greaves reprint, but this is fine I guess. Commander Sphere, sure. Command Tower, obvious enough, and Myriad Landscape. These are all the staple reprints you'd expect in any Commander set, so they're not really anything special as of this point. The deck list we're going to be focusing on today is the Esper top of the library. We have the new 8-year-old Planeswalker that's spoiled, as well as some sweet other cards for this list. The first one isn't necessarily for the list, but it's going to be a sweet card nonetheless. Knight Incarnate, 4 colorless and a black for a 3/4 elemental with Death Touch. When it leaves the battlefield, all creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn, and you can evoke it for 3 and a black. If nobody knows what evoke is, basically you could pay the cost for evoke, basically to get the ETB or the leaves the battlefield effect. So in this case, you can pay 4 mana for, actually this is kind of a worse, less mana intensive Languish. You can pay 4 mana to give all creatures -3/-3 until end of turn, or you can pay 5 mana to get a 3/4 Death Touching and that mini nukes the board as soon as it dies. This is a fine card, I think it'll go in a lot of decks. Next is Primordial Mist, 4 colorless and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may manifest the top card of your library. Exile a face-down permanent you control face up. You may play that card this turn. This is an okay card. If you guys don't know what manifest is, basically put the top card of your library onto the battlefield face down as though it was a morph, and you can turn it up face up for any time for its mana cost if it's a creature, otherwise it just stays down as a 2/2. This kind of negates the drawback of manifesting, which is if you manifest like a land or a spell or something like that that you can't turn face up because it's not a creature, you can just exile it and then you can play it for its mana cost. That's pretty cool, and I think a lot of the decks that deal with manifesting shenanigans could do cool with this card. The next one is Sower of Discord, 4 colorless and 2 black for a 6/6 demon with flying. As it enters the battlefield, choose 2 players. Whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, the other chosen player also loses that much life. This is kind of like the effect we saw yesterday with the Omnivorous Hydra. Basically, whenever anyone does damage to one player, another player also loses that life. This is a pretty cool effect, and it's not seen on many other cards. I don't know how many decks actually want to run this though. The next one is the next one in our Storm cycle, Skullstorm. 7 and 2 black for a sorcery. When you copy it for each time you've matched a commander from the commands in this game, as per the Storm cycle. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Each opponent who can't loses half their life rounded up. This is a very, very powerful effect. However, at 9 mana, I don't think it'll be played too often. Normally, you'd want to reserve something that expensive for something a bit more impactful, kind of like Expropriate or Time Stretch. This is a very powerful effect, but because of the high mana cost and low floor, I don't know if many decks are going to want to run this, because with some expensive commanders, you might only be able to get this effect to 1 time. It's a cool card, but I don't know how practical it's going to be. Alright guys, next card is the next one we have in our Loyal cycle, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Loyal Unicorn, 3 colorless and a white for a 3/4 unicorn with Vigilance and Lieutenant. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control your commander, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Other creatures you control gain Vigilance until end of turn. I'm calling it right now, this is going to be the best uncommon out of any Commander 2018 deck. Basically, what this does is if you control your commander, you can swing with everything you have and not worry about it dying to anything other than removal. Because prevent all damage that's dealt to it, and it gains Vigilance, so you can block creatures afterwards. This is a very, very, very good card, and a lot of decks want to run this for the invincibility in combat. Alright guys, next we have Animatou's Augury, 6 colorless and 2 blue for a sorcery. My bad if I pronounced that wrong. Exile the top 8 cards from your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a card of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. This is obviously a very powerful effect, but if you don't have so much mana, I don't know if this is going to be very good. Because you can only play them until end of turn, and 8 mana forces you to mill the top 8 cards, I don't know how practical this is going to be because you'll likely only have 1 to 2 mana unless you've gone infinite, in which case, yeah, feel free to play this. But you normally don't have that much mana when you want to play this, and because you'll only have like 1, maybe 4 at max mana left over, I don't think this is going to go into that many decks. Although something about that card, if you can cheat the mana cost, you'll want to play this every single time. This is a very good card if you can get around the 8 mana cost, but otherwise I don't think it'll be that playable. Next we have Boreas Charger, 2 colorless and a white for a 2/1 Pegasus with flying. When it leaves the battlefield, choose an opponent who controls more lands than you. Search your library for a number of plains cards equal to the difference and reveal them. Put one of them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is kind of like a land tax. Basically, when it leaves the battlefield, not when it dies, but when it leaves the battlefield, you can basically even out your draws for lands. Because if say you have 4 lands and someone else has 7 because they're green deck and they've been ramping super hard, you can go find 3 plains, which is pretty cool that they say plains and not basic land type, because then you can go search up like Hollowed Fountain or I forget I don't know, anything with the plain irrigated farmland. That's it. And then you can put them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. This is white's one of the most efficient ways at ramping besides White of the Night Orchid, but your opponents have to have a lot more lands than you, which is going to be very, very situational. I don't really know how to feel about this card yet. Why Wizards? This is Magus of the Balance, 1 colorless and a white for a human wizard. A 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 4 and a white and sack it for balance. I mean, Wizard, 1 balance effect was enough in Commander. Oh my god. Basically, you can have balance on a stick, and if you keep reanimating, if anyone's ever played against balance, they know how broken this card is going to be, especially because it's in white, and it's a creature, so it can be reanimated. Even though it can be killed pretty easily, compared to balance, we still don't need another balance effect in Commander. Next, we have Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow, 1 colorless and a Dimir or a blue and a black, for a 1/3 legendary creature human ninja with Commander Ninjutsu costing a blue and a black. Which is, if you guys don't know what Ninjutsu is, basically if you attack with a creature and it's not blocked, you can pay the Ninjutsu cost, return it to the owner's hand, and then you can put that card on the battlefield tapped and attacking, and it's not blocked. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equals to that card's CMC. So, essentially, it's Ninja Tribal Commander, which is very, very sweet. And whenever it or another ninja deals damage, you Dark Confidant, but the damage deals to each opponent instead of to you. Very, very sweet card, and I think TCG Player revealed this card, or I think John from Pretty Dece, and him and Jumbo Commander made a deck list going around this one. If you want, you can go check out that video. I'll link it in the description. The next card we have is Phyrexian Delver, 3 colorless and 2 black for a 3/2 zombie. When Phyrexian Delver enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose life equal to the card's CMC. This is fantastic. This is a budget reprint of the card Reanimate, which basically it's 1 black mana to do the same effect, and you can do it from anybody's graveyard. This isn't going to be good if you have Reanimate in your deck, because you can just use that instead. But if you don't have enough money for Reanimate, because it's getting up there in price-wise, like $20 for a copy, this could be very good, and it could be a budget Reanimator player's dream. Alright guys, I think I'm finally realizing what Esper top card of your library means. It's Miracles. Entreat the Dead, XX and 3 black for a sorcery. Return X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, but it has Miracle for X and 2 black. If you guys don't know what Miracle means, it's you can pay the card for a cheaper mana cost if it's the first card you've drawn this turn. So basically, to put the power of this card for the Miracle cost into perspective, you can pay 5 mana for a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's like an Unburial Rites, but if you do it for the Miracle cost, it's 3 creatures instead. That is very, very good for the Miracle cost, and if you can definitely get it into Miracles, you should. I don't know how good it's going to be if it's not the first card you draw for the turn. And also something that this is hopefully going to give us. Hopefully Sensei's Divining Top is going to be in the Esper top card of library deck. If it isn't, that's a huge, huge whiff on Wizards' part. That card's getting to be super, super expensive, and it definitely needs a reprint. This next one is Yanet, Cryptic Sovereign. 2 colorless and an Esper for a 3/5 legendary creature Sphinx with flying, vigilance, and menace. Whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If that card's CMC is odd, you may cast it without paying your mana cost. Otherwise, draw a card. This is a very, very good payoff for playing the Esper top card of your library deck. Also, I can see this being a fantastic commander, and being able to cheat mana costs if the card is odd. That's very, very strong. You'll probably have to build around like Sensei's Dividing Top or other top card of library effects, but if you can get it to work, whenever it attacks, because you can have stuff like Reconnaissance, you can get the trigger without it actually being in peril, plus you can't block it that easily because it has flying and menace. This is a very, very powerful card, and it's going to be the commander for a lot of decks. Alright guys, second to last card of the day, Verena Lich Queen. 1 colorless and an Esper for a 4/4 legendary creature zombie wizard. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards. You gain that much life. But that's not all. You can pay 2 and exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This is the forefront for the Esper Zombies deck. Before, I think they had to go with Gisa and Geralf, but now they have this beater. This is a very efficient costing creature at 4 mana for 4/4 for 4 mana, and it has a very powerful ability. You can draw cards equal to how many zombies you attack with, and especially it says non-token zombies, so the tokens that it creates can actually go towards you drawing cards and gaining life. Very, very good commander for any zombie tribal build. And actually guys, right as I finished recording the video, they actually spoiled 2 more lands, Mountain Valley and Rocky Tar Pit. And if you didn't know, these are the cycle of Mirage slow fetches, and this is going to be very good for budget players, and this is a very good sign that they're going to finish reprinting the rest of the cycle. Alright guys, here's our final card spoiled for the day. Animatou, the Fate Shifter, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. 1 Esper for a 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker, that. She has 3 abilities. +1, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your library. -1, exile another target permanent you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. -6, choose left or right. Each player gains control of all non-land permanents other than Animatou, the Fate Shifter, controlled by the next player in the chosen direction. So, the +1 is and she can be a commander. The +1 is very good for this kind of deck, because you can rig what's on the top of your library if you like misdrew a Terminus or Entreat the Dead or something. And it can, I don't know, it's good card draw. The -1 is pretty good as well. It's only a -1 for a blink effect, but what might be a little confusing is the -6. So if you don't understand it from the text, what it is at a 4-player game, you choose left or right. I'm just going to say clockwise or counterclockwise for now, because that's easier. Clockwise is, I'm not sure what I'm trying to think. Clockwise is right, counterclockwise is left. So what happens is your boards essentially rotate to that chosen direction, except for all non-land permanents and Animatou. So if your deck is really focused around her, you can make the board that you give essentially useless, and you get all the sweet stuff from the other board. The ultimate is going to have to be pretty sweet timing though for it to be actually good. Otherwise, I just stick with the +1 because that's really what's going to fuel your deck. Alright guys, that's it for today's spoilers video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what you want to see next. And as always, this video is brought to you by you, the subscriber. Be sure to subscribe for all the most daily best spoilers for Commander 2018. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys all in the next video.
I see your fantasy. You wanna make it a reality, baby. Go see inside of our heads, yeah. Well, now that's over.